Hello, this is Dave Bergeson, Vice President of Client Relations here at Association Management Center. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with AMC Senior Consultant Debbie Trueblood about ethics and trends and patterns she is seeing regarding DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion in the association space. Debbie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, David. It's wonderful to be with you today.
Thank you. Before we begin, tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. So DEI and ethics are huge passions for me. So as a consultant here at AMC, I support all kinds of associations, and I lead all of our consulting in the ethics and DEI area. And then I also do consulting in strategic planning, governance, and whatever else any association needs. But in the ethics world, I was proud to be chair of the American Society of Association Executive, ASAE's Ethics Committee back in 2018. And on the DEI side, I'm proud to currently be chair of Association Forum's Welcoming Environment Committee.
Great. Well, thank you, Debbie. Since we talked a little bit about ethics in the introduction, let's go ahead and start there. Tell me, how exactly is DEI part of ethics?
Thanks, Dave. So for me, I think of ethics and leadership as being intertwined now in our society and in our association community with ethics. So it's ethics, DEI, leadership have all blended. And so what I mean by that is we are in a place in our society now where to be a leader, you have to incorporate DEI. You cannot say, well, I'm going to be a great leader for my association, but I'm not going to think about equity or inclusion. You know, we're no longer seeing that as an ethical leader. So for us to be ethical, we have to make sure that we're never leaving anyone in our membership behind or excluding them. So ethics and DEI are interrelated.
So what do you see out there? What are boards doing in support of DEI?
Well, for many different associations that I consult with, we're doing DEI projects in a wide variety of ways. So I'm seeing several associations work with us on DEI roadmaps. So that can be a part of your strategic plan, or it can be a standalone DEI specific strategic plan, but a multi-year plan for DEI. That's becoming very common in the association space. I also work with boards who want to do DEI training. So that can be a DEI training in the boardroom, in the staff office. That can be training our chapter chairs and our committee and council chairs. That can be training the members of the nominating and elections committee. So there's all sorts of different training components. And then also we're seeing things like auditing the governance structure with a DEI lens, or auditing all of our internal systems and structure and policies and bylaws with a DEI lens to make sure that we're updating our language and our viewpoints about our members.
Wow, that's a really broad scope of activities, really exciting stuff. Now, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges you're seeing out there.
Yeah, so DEI is such a fast evolving question that the biggest challenge associations are dealing with is just how to stay on top of the trends. The language is changing very, very quickly. 3 years ago, we were still using the phrase preferred pronouns, which we know today as right out. So now we just say pronouns. And so we see preferred as being, that's kind of uncomfortable, outdated language. So, you know, that's an example of, even if you think that you're sort of right on top of it, you have to constantly be looking at the language you use. If you have to look back at your forms, you have to look back at your conference registration. How do you ask the gender question? How do you ask the race question if you're managing those demographics? The language here is just changing very, very quickly. So even associations that have been on their DEI journey a long time are still having to catch up. And those associations that are just now beginning their DEI journey, I would say to them, I'm glad you're on the pathway with us, but now every day that you don't start, you're further and further behind the trend. And so it's really important that boards in particular really have the urgency. There was research done back in 2020 by ASAE Research Foundation that really showed that association boards, even 2 years ago, still really lacked a sense of urgency with DEI. They felt, as the survey respondent pool, that if they just kind of do what they've always done, then the diversity, equity, and inclusion would happen organically. And we know that that's not the case. You do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got.
I know Board Source has done some great work in this area too, showing very similar things. So um, a couple things you said there really hit home to me were really interesting. One is be very careful with your language and use language thoughtfully and have an urgency around this is another thing that you said. Are there other things that boards should do, or maybe more importantly, shouldn't do related to DEI?
Yes, I think, for the most part, as long as boards are leading with positive intent, then just, keep moving, keep trying to move forward. You might make mistakes, but just keep moving. But some of the things that I do see boards doing that maybe they shouldn't do, I would be cautious to a board that is saying we should really focus on training other people, but not worry about ourselves. So if a board is saying we need to go out and train the staff, but we're fine, I would say maybe we should train the board and the staff. So I think that's an area. And then I don't know if it's an area that boards should or should not do, but this question of the board's role, the association's role in social justice is becoming a key question that I get from our clients all the time. And so I want to address this because I think boards are saying, well, we should pursue social justice issues, and some boards are saying, well, no, we shouldn't. And where we're at today, this question is evolving so quickly that whatever answer I would give today would be outdated in 6 months. So I would say today there's not an answer yet, but I will walk through some of the contexting for the question a little bit. So some boards are saying, if we don't take a position on something, that if we're silent on something, it looks like we're complicit. And what research shows is that professionals, especially those under the age of 40, do see that they want to support organizations that share their values. And if an organization is not verbalizing their values, that people will assume that you actually support the opposition to that value. So there are members who say, I have to hear you say it. And so for those people, they are driving their boards and associations to take a wide variety of positions. But there are also people who are saying, our association cannot be all things to all people. Our resources just don't go that far. So we can't take a position on everything because we don't have the resources, the means, the capacity to really do something about it. We don't want to look performative and just say we care about X, Y, and Z and do nothing as a result of it. So again, there's not an answer today, but I'm seeing this question come up all the time. And I would say the answer really probably comes back to who are you culturally? Culturally, have you been in the social justice space before? Is this something that feels like a natural extension of the work that you've done? Or are you coming out of nowhere? You haven't done a listening tour, you haven't done your research, and all of a sudden you're taking a huge position on something controversial that is much more likely to backfire on you. So just, kind of find your own way in this path. So that would be my thoughts on that, Dave.
Great. Wow. Thank you, Debbie. So any last words? There's a lot of wisdom there, but any last words of wisdom for us?
Well, thanks, Dave. I truly feel that to be an ethical leader, we do have to really model what it looks like to live our values. We have to show our members, we have to show our colleagues in the boardroom, show our staff that we partner with, that we are people who live ethically and truly live our values. I think that's key. And so beyond that, I would just encourage boards in this context of DEI and ethics to really lead authentically and to lead bravely. And when we live our values and we lead bravely, wonderful things will happen as a result.
Wow. What a great message. Thank you, Debbie.